Ah. I know.
This is Hi everyone, my name is Ainhoa. I'm the Vice President for Communities at the Students' Union at the University of Aberdeen. And coincidentally enough, 2 weeks ago we had a student climate assembly on travel, transport, and tourism. So I told Adam about it, and he said, "Oh, we've got a climate cafe on tourism. Do you want to speak at it?" So here I am. So I'm going to be presenting kind of like the outcomes of that assembly. What are the barriers that the students face in terms of traveling more sustainably, and what the students end up prioritizing in the travels. That's perfect, thank you. Okay, so we first started with an activity to just like try to see what's the students' preferred holiday. So you can see some of the results here. This is not all the students in the university. This is only the ones that attended the climate assembly. So yeah, don't expect many responses. But we saw that the most popular holiday experience was a cultural experience by far, and then compared to like beach, camping, and backpacking were the runner-ups. And then there was like one vote for hotel resort and another one for road trip. Then we asked the students some other questions. So what's your favorite season to travel in Scotland? Pretty similar answers, to be fair. We have summer, spring and autumn. Summer is the preferred one, but very, very equal results. Then we asked, what's your favorite way to explore Aberdeen? So the top two answers were beach walks and coastal paths, parks and green spaces. So these are kind of like the outdoorsy areas, and then followed by museums, galleries, and local cafes. And then 2 people actually said that they haven't explored enough yet, so I'll have a chat with them. Then we asked, do you consider the impact of carbon footprint when choosing your daily mode of transport? And then the top answer was sometimes. Then 3 people said yes, always. And then 2 people said rarely, and 2 people said never. This is very interesting. Then we asked, what would make you switch to cycling more often in Aberdeen? So we gave a couple of options, and most people replied better bike lanes and safety on the roads. Of course, I'm sure most of you will identify with some of the answers. Then it was followed by affordable e-bike rentals, because you know Aberdeen used to have one, and now it's gone, and etc. Another option was secure parking or storage. This is related to bikes. And then 2 people said knowing how to cycle. Very fair. And we actually offered some cycling workshops for the students and the wider community for those that wanted to refresh their minds on how to cycle or learn how to cycle or even know how to cycle in the UK. It's very different from other places. Then we asked, if you had to plan a no-flight holiday from Aberdeen, where would you go? Most people by far replied Scottish Highlands or Islands. Fair enough, they're very popular. Then some people replied London or another UK city. And then the 2 last answers were somewhere in Europe by train or ferry, or exploring Aberdeen and the surroundings, which to be fair was fairly popular as well. Then we asked, if sustainability was a priority, what type of holiday would you most enjoy? Clearly, the top answer was nature getaway, mountains, forests. And to be fair, these are the students that replied to this questionnaire were those that attended the climate assembly. So I don't know if that has some bias, which probably. But yeah, and then that was followed by cultural tourism, so visiting museums, galleries, like immersive experiences. And then some people replied a quiet beach or coastal walk. And then the last voted option was road trip through the countryside. Okay, the next question was, while taking sustainability into consideration, which of the following would you try or would you like to try? So the top voted question answer was travel by train rather than flying. And I'll go into way more detail afterwards. And then equally, we've got choose eco-friendly accommodation, taking fewer short-haul flights, And then that was followed by bringing along reusable items like bags, bottles, etc. And then planning trips closer to home was one of the options that was voted for as well. But as you can see, the top answer was traveling by train rather than flying. When choosing how to travel, what matters most to the students? Of course. The students keep complaining how they're broke. So obviously cost was going to be one of the top barriers for students to travel more sustainably. Comfort, I was quite surprised about this answer. Actually, I would expect students to be quite willing to sleep on the floor of a ferry or something. I've certainly done that before, so I didn't have to pay for the chair. But yeah, it was surprisingly quite a voted answer as well, and that was followed by environmental impact. So you can see that comfort was voted over environmental impact, which is quite interesting. And then the last one was speed. Okay, then we asked on social media, how many times do students travel back and forth from home? You know, the Aberdeen University is quite diverse. It's got quite a diverse student community. So they come from all over the world, many international students, and with the shift in demographics, obviously it's trying to recruit more international students. So we asked the question. You can see the top voted results were from 0 to 1, 2 to 3, and then barely anyone went like between 3 and 4 times, but then you can see quite a few responses for the more than five times a year. There were 33 responses in total, and then when I was going through the submissions, I noticed that most of the people that responded these two options were international students and EU students. This could be, and I'm just assuming here from my personal experience when I was at uni, cost, time, and maybe just like wanting to explore more Aberdeen rather than going home for vacation. And then the people that replied more than 5 times were mostly home students. Fair enough. They can go home fairly easily. It's fairly close. Now, this is the very interesting slide. What are the barriers that students face when to travel more sustainable? So you can see lots of different answers here, but they basically come down to cost, time, reliability of public transport, of course. Sometimes the buses don't show up, the trains get cancelled without previous notice. Connectedness was a really important one as well. People wanted to see more connectedness between train, buses, even it was mentioned as well, being able to like carry your bike on the train or on a bus so that then you can cycle elsewhere. There was a good suggestion as well of kind of like buying one same ticket that allows you to take the train to where you have to take the flight. Let me try to explain that better. So for example, if I were to go back to Spain, I would probably go down to London to take the flight from there so that it's only one flight, direct flight, instead of having to take several flights. It would be more sustainable as well. So I would take the train there to London to then fly to London to Spain. So yeah, more connectedness. And then accessibility. Some of the students mentioned having disabilities, and obviously sometimes like going on buses is not the most accessible option either. Lack of infrastructure. This is again referring mostly to cycling lanes, the lack of cycling lanes, the potholes on the roads. There was also quite a big discussion on kind of like road space allocation and how basically like bikes and buses go on the same lane. However, buses keep stopping for the bus stops, so then the cyclist has to overtake, but the bus goes faster than the cyclist, so then the bus overtakes, and it's kind of like this constant struggle of just like overtaking each other, and it's very unsafe. And then the lack of safe bike storage spaces to store your bike. Someone said here, I'm scared that my bike will get stolen again. So overall, we then have like a brainstorming activity in which we ask the students, what's your vision for a more sustainable transport in Aberdeen? And kind of like we touched on tourism and traveling as well. So the students basically were demanding more ferry and train routes, cheaper train and ferry fares than flight prices, because obviously how can you try to encourage the community to take alternative modes of transport that are more sustainable when taking a flight is faster, cheaper? It just does not make any sense. Nationalization of public transport, that was another suggestion by the students. Rail, air, road, multimodal travel options, including exchange between buses, because we've got two different bus companies, and sometimes you need to take two buses to get somewhere, but your day ticket doesn't work on both companies. So you have to buy another ticket so that you can get on the other bus. Bus lanes and cycle lanes separate from each other with less road space for cars. So that's what I was really referring to before. No parking allowed on the road, because I don't know if you try to cycle down, or even like the buses down King Street, there's cars that are just parked there on a straight line. It's very annoying. It just creates more unsafety on the roads. Safer, better roads for cycling. Free bus pass for all students regardless of age. You know, our university in particular is trying to recruit more international students. These international students usually come here to study a master's degree or a PhD. These students are not under 22. Therefore, they cannot benefit from the Young Scot card, so they don't have the free bus travel, but they're still students. They're still struggling financially. Reliable bus services to rural areas. So this was more focused on the tourism side of things. So the students were trying to think how to make tourism in Aberdeen more sustainable. So having more bus services to rural areas so that the tourists can explore the surroundings going by bus without necessarily having to rent a car or bring a car. Then having rental bike services, again, same reason. And then pedestrianization of the city center. And there was a really good comment here from a student that said, if the city center was pedestrianized, you would have more tourists. Oh, sorry, I don't know what it is. You would have more tourists like hanging out in the city center, spending money in the local businesses, and having less tourists just like renting a car and moving around the car. And then finally, because we had heard that the city council was considering implementing a 7% tourist tax, we were just like thinking that if such tax were to be implemented, those funds could be directed to maintaining local heritage and developing
Presentation more.
Well, I'll just go to the last slide. Basically, I just wanted to say thank you to our student sustainability advocates, because they're the ones that have been helping me organize the climate assemblies. And I just put a photo there of, Piotr is there as well, because he was a guest speaker. So I had heard the presentation before. But if you want to get in touch, that's my email address. Thank you. I hope that you found that insightful.